Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special Friday edition of TTG's Agent Matters panel. And today we're marking what is hopefully the first of many National Travel Agent Days in the UK. It's a pleasure to be part of this, and it's something that commonly happens in some other countries like the US and Australia, but we've never seemed to have something like this in the UK. So a big thank you to Intrepid Travel for trying to get the ball rolling with this, and we're really pleased to be part of this this morning and hope we can make it a permanent fixture on the UK travel sector calendar. The event is taking place today across sort of various social media platforms, being broadcast via various pages. We're live currently on the TTG Facebook page, but we should be live also on Travel Gossip and also Intrepid Loves Agents Facebook page. There'll be activities going on across other parts of social media as well under the hashtag NTADUK. So if you take a look at that, you should hopefully come across some nice happy scenes from everywhere, really just celebrating what's going on and how we're kind of moving through this current situation that the sector finds itself in. Just by way of introductions, I'm James Chappell. I'm the Deputy News Editor at TTG, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Claire Moore, Managing Director of Peaks Travel Elite. I'm also joined by Richard Slater, owner of Henbury Travel. And I'm also joined by Jackie Steadman, Director of TravelTime World. We're here to talk about just the life, the times, what's going on in the travel sector at the moment, what's going on in the independent agent sector, and looking a bit at how we can kind of move forward from this situation, and also how we can make perhaps the general public appreciate that that role that the independent agents play in travel at the moment. So. Really, we're going to go straight into things now, and I'm going to ask just all of you to give us a few thoughts kind of on perhaps your week at the moment so far, how it's gone to date this week, and we'll then pick up a few other topics from there. So perhaps, Claire, could we start with you? Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. For us, it's still really quite a slow running situation. We still have half of our workforce furloughed. So the team that are here, we're rebooking and a really great rates. We are taking some new inquiries, but not really as many as any of us would like, and certainly not for travelling very imminently. But I guess the message we're trying to push out to our customers is that we're here and we'll remain to be here. It's brilliant to do something like this and have something positive to talk about. And it's a great time for us because we've had some really brilliant customer feedback, which we've turned into a little bit of a social media program. So we've been gradually pushing some stuff out on Facebook, and so it will be today it kind of brings all that to a close, which is fab.
Oh, brilliant. That's based on feedback you've received directly from clients over the last couple of weeks or something like that then?
Yeah, I mean, we always do tend to get some brilliant feedback, but I guess as those people have been giving us that verbally, I've said, well, thanks for that, but would you mind putting something in writing? And would you then mind if I shared it? And actually then they come back with something much bigger and probably much more valuable. So yeah, it's been really great and a massive boost for the team.
Yeah, nice to have that also culminate to coincide with what's happening today as well.
Yeah,
that's going to be nice too. Excellent. Richard, just moving over to you quickly. What's been the story from your point of view?
This week we've been quite buoyant. We had a couple of bookings a day. So half of those are going this week or next. And then we've got things like ski in March to Canada. What else have we done? Sort of January breaks. January seems to have woken up quite well this week. But generally, there's lots of people inquiring, but there's still a lot of nervousness. I think now as we start to see, I think the first sort of returns were, yesterday and the day before. Once those people get talking and put the photos on social media, we'll start to see a little bit more movement and a little less reticence to travel.
Yeah, certainly. And Jackie, you're out in Portugal at the moment.
Yeah, indeed.
What's the situation out there? Are you seeing much recovery at the moment over there?
They are desperate, as you know. Portugal is on the no-go list. They are extremely frustrated because the whole village, I live in Carvoeira, and the whole town is dependent on tourism. And when you've got Spain next door, who is in lockdown, and yet it's still a safe destination, that's, you know, that's quite a hard pill to swallow for the, yeah. The restaurants are everything is open here. The beaches are open. It's a very simple rule. They're a bit sort of shocked that it's taken the UK so long to get the masks up and running. They've obviously always been wearing masks. It's a very simple rule. The minute you step over the threshold of a building, you put your mask on, end of. Whether that be a supermarket, a bar, a restaurant, a shop, wherever, you just put the mask on. Once you're inside and you sat down, then you take your mask off to eat or drink. Nobody wears masks walking around the place. You don't see people in the car on their own wearing a mask. That's, you know, that would, you know, which you do in the UK. And I think they are desperate for tourists here. It's very, very quiet, and, you know, they are pretty, you know, desperate really. So we're hoping Monday things might change, because there is rumours that there's regional, going to be regional areas of on the list. So the tourist board of the Algarve is hoping that will be on the list of go. Yeah. So yeah, so that's it. Yeah.
Well, masks is actually an issue I think I'd like to pick up just a little bit later in terms of what it's like trying to bring those kind of regulations into your businesses. But I think, Jackie, let's just move into some of the situation, let's say, with the sort of government developments so far. I mean, how is everyone finding this transition back to the world where we can travel again? How is that? How has that been for you, and how have you kind of managed those kind of expectations with clients at the moment? Perhaps we could start actually with you, Jackie. Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough, because we like Richard and Claire are booking. We're doing a couple of bookings a day. Some of them are sort of for August, some sort of further afield into Christmas and half term. But what we're finding, that every booking there is an issue on. So we booked a group of lads out to Magaluf. Hotel's great. It's got its own little nightclub in it, which is fantastic. So if the bars are shut, 18 of them happy. All of a sudden we get a message, an email down from, I won't say a tour operator, but from the tour operator saying, hotel's closed. Same with Greece. Got another client's going out this week to Greece. We've just found out the hotel's closed, and when they get there, they're actually going to be moved to a sister hotel. So it's that frustration at the moment that's making our job harder, because we're eager to do the bookings. Those clients are eager to sell, but every booking, you know, again, I've got bookings, the Algarve, beautiful, you know, very high value bookings for villas. And the clients are sort of, well, can we go? Can we not go? It's the 27th of August that we're departing. And, you know, so we are struggling, to deliver the product because of either hotels being closed or because of government regulations. Yeah. So it's tough. And but I say we are booking a couple of bookings a day. I've only got one full-time staff back off furlough, and others we are using the 10-20% furlough option, and we're bringing them back in just so they can keep their hand in, you know. So yeah,
certainly. We touched on it a moment ago, but from your perspective, Claire, the list of destinations we have to work on at the moment is obviously relatively short compared with having the whole world to choose from at the moment. Has there been any particular issues arising from that's really kind of made it difficult for you to start converting those bookings again at this time?
I think it's probably just, as reiterating what Jackie said, it's almost to do with the inconsistencies, and that's not probably anybody's particular fault, but it does all add together to create a lack of confidence to travel. And the fact that it's such a fast moving situation, people are nervous about local lockdowns in the UK, let alone what might happen whilst they're away. So we are just very much trying to be led by our customers rather than suggesting that this is the right thing to do, because I think the right thing to do varies for all of us depending on our own personal circumstance.
And Richard, could you possibly give us a bit of insight into how you've approached the situation with clients, and kind of what you've said to them to kind of put their minds at rest as best as possible, while also obviously at the same time trying to convince them that taking a holiday in 6 months, 9 months or so is probably going to be a safer proposition?
Sure. I think, as usual, we've not been we've not been too desperate in trying to get the sales. We've talked to them very carefully and in our social media campaign throughout, so we've been doing social media throughout, we've been, been very informative about what's happening. Here's some pictures of what's going on. There's been some guys in the trade who've been putting blogs about what's happened through the airports. Craig did one of those yesterday, and we share those sorts of things, and I think that puts people's minds at rest a little bit. I think they're still very cautious about it, but and certainly I think at the moment we're not going out shouting, yeah, we're doing loads of bookings, phones ringing off the hook, or any messages like that, which anybody doing those sorts of messages is either lying or desperate. And I think it's a case of just informing them, having the right information to hand, being able to put out clear social media information about what's going on, how safe it is, what your thoughts are, and directing people carefully using your experience. So my guys the three of us in my shop have got 66 years experience, and I think we're certainly seeing a peak in people coming. So the ski booking we did, a lady going to Canada, she came in and said, I heard about you, just going to see what you can do. We normally put it together ourselves, but we're a bit wary of doing that at the moment. And we put it all together. There was not a lot, there was about £100 difference in the booking cost. And she said, well, actually, I didn't expect your difference to be so small. And the service she's received is great, and it's all protected. So she felt she was getting the bargain effectively, because she's got all that information as well.
Yeah, and I think that point, Richard, you make is really emblematic of the reason why I think some kind of national travel agent celebration can be really a pertinent thing, because that like you mentioned, that difference, it can often be so small between doing something yourself and then getting the kind of full service of an agent from start to finish. I mean, have you sort of thought of any ways that you can try and convince people of the value of that? I don't know who wants to go first and try and give me any ideas about how that's possible. Perhaps you, Jackie, could you let us know what you do to kind of inform clients about that sort of thing?
Well, we do basically every week we do an e-shot out to our whole database, and we've done that right through all the lockdown. And not just about offers or whatever, but really about what we're doing. I mean, things like what we were working on and chasing the refunds for clients. We sort of put it together in terms of things that we were doing outside of work, making it more personal and human touch, what we did with our animals, the dogs, the cats, what work we were doing in the house, stripping everything, and then, the work we're doing on behalf of the clients. So to see the benefit of working with an agent when it came to getting you refunds, because if you're out there on your own trying to get the refund, it's quite tough. At least we're fighting. And I think the nicest thing that I found yesterday was it was a very large refund on a particular high value cruise. It was a 20 grand refund, and the client said, okay, right, I'll give you my back to you. Fantastic, thank you so much for getting that for us. And he said, do you not make any money on this? I said, no, absolutely not. No. I said, no. He said, can you keep 500 back? Yeah. And you sort of go and you think, okay, I've just lost £2,500 commission on that booking, but the customers recognize that we did a good job selling it. We're now having to give back all that money back to him, and we're actually not made any money. He just said to keep 500. Yeah. And it's those things that, and you can't put those in an email and put it out, but that's the sort of stuff that makes it all worthwhile, is that recognition of somebody understands what we've been doing.
Certainly. And Claire, have you had any thoughts about how you've started to factor this into how you operate to actually put across what you do from start to finish? I mean, when someone perhaps come into you as a new client, how would you make them aware of what service they're going to get from yourself as an independent agent?
I think, quite honestly, we've already started to be more selective about what we do, and our smaller team now, we will have to, we can't be all things to all people, so we are going to have to use our specialist knowledge, around the kind of stuff that Intrepid does, which is fab, but also to make sure that we're working with tour operators in a true partnership, so that we're able to add the value that we all hope that we do with every transaction. But actually, if our tour operator partners, if it's not a true partnership, then actually there's not really that much value at all, really, that we can add to the transaction. So the conversations that we're having, much like Richard said, around a new booking are much bigger, and they're probably much bigger conversations all the way through, actually. And we're really upfront with clients, as Jackie said, to say, no, we're not making any money on this. We're doing this to hope, that we support you and you'll support us when we're here in the future.
Is that a similar experience you've had, Richard, as well? Those kind of conversations to reinforce those messages?
Yeah, I think they are, and I think we're also seeing a lot more people who are coming from recommendation and people who've picked up on our social media stuff. So there was an interesting show, a Tonight Show on ITV just recently, about a couple who'd gone to Madeira just before lockdown, put it all together themselves. Flights with EasyJet, apartment paid for directly at their apartment. And their prize was an extra month in Madeira, whereas if they'd been in a proper package, and they would have been repatriated. So we did a very quick post, or I did a very quick post while sat watching it, and we got something like 150 likes about the post because people got it. They went, yeah, he's right. And I think that's the...
Sorry about that.
It's all right. That's the.
I just come out from the pool. Sorry.
No problem. That's where we've had the most success with social media. Is just things. I think it's about me and the team thinking about something very quickly and going, yeah, let's get that on now, because people are watching it, might have focused on it, and they'll now realise when we're saying book a package, that's why we mean it.
Yeah, certainly. I think that security that comes with doing that is I mean, it's hard to place a value on that at the moment, but unfortunately, I guess an awful lot of people do at the end of the day, which is a difficult hurdle for everyone in the trade at the moment. But perhaps we could just move on to some of the I guess the transition from where we were, let's say 3.5 months ago through to where we are now. So what kind of have been the changes you've kind of recognised in how you're working and how you're having to kind of move these conversations on now? I mean, what's kind of the change that's happened from that immediate kind of real downturn to the picking up now? Perhaps we start with you, Claire. Is that okay?
Sure. Well, it really, as we alluded to before, it is around the conversations have to be more in depth, because we need to have a conversation about whether these people may not be able to travel so we're already kind of bringing in a negative to overcome, because we might as well just get it all out in the open before that booking's made. So we are openly sharing some of the stories about tour operators. These guys have actually been great, and this has been our experience. This is how our customers have benefited or not benefited in some cases. We need to be not afraid to be honest, whether it's sometimes that honesty isn't a positive thing. But yeah, as far as the changes go, I think it's early days really for me. There's I think where we are now, I hope that we'll adapt that more and more as kind of further transactions come through, as the world opens a bit more. But for now, it's about making sure that the operators we're using in the immediate, but also in the very long term, share the same ethos as us.
Certainly. Is that something you've had to think about, Jackie, as well, in terms of the businesses you work with currently? Have you had to start at this stage making any thoughts on how you go forward with some of those?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing for us is flexibility. Yeah, particularly with balanced due dates. The more the tour operator is flexible, yeah, for example, as the departures in August, yeah, where we still haven't actually taken balances because, particularly for areas like the Algarve, which we've got a lot of bookings down to, yeah, the tour operators have been flexible and saying, well, don't pay in the balance, let's just sit it out and wait, yeah. So yes, it's having that tour operator partnership, and also, how quick they answer their phone. The frustration at the moment of getting through for new bookings and also for chasing, operations departments is those companies who process the refunds quickly and the refund credit notes, those companies who answer the phone for new business. You try to get through to somebody for, say, compliment, for a tailor-made itinerary, and they've only got 10% of their staff who are working remotely. Yeah, it's quite frustrating. I mean, you just have to bite the bullet. I mean, we've been like all of my colleagues, we've been there throughout these really dark days. Yeah, answering the phones. I've been in at 6 o'clock yesterday morning. I was on the phone at 6 o'clock in the morning, speaking to this Greek hotel, which I knew had closed down. And speaking to the reservation manager and where we're going to move the clients to. Yeah, and not many people are there at that time in the morning. So it's flexibility and a partnership, really.
Yeah, I think that's something that the feedback we've certainly received at TTG has been that that when things have started to progress and we've started to, I don't want to hasten to use the word recover, but start to move up through the gears again ever so slightly at the moment, is that we're finding more and more now that that agents are struggling to make those contacts with suppliers at the moment, whether it's just for new bookings or whether it's for the ongoing refund situation things as well. Is that a particular challenge you faced, Richard, if you had to kind of somehow try and find new ways to get in hold of suppliers or work around these issues? I mean, it must be very difficult to actually find another way around it in many situations.
Yeah, I think it has been difficult. We've just kept trying different routes and email and all bits and pieces. But I think that the suppliers that have cut their staff to bare minimum to try and, where they're trying to move across to a more web-based customer, will probably be having a thought now that actually, oops, I wish I hadn't got rid of all these travel agents, because they are able to deal with and get rid of a lot of the flack. So I can see some of them moving a little bit further back from the internet and perhaps encouraging customers to come to agents. I think there's been some shocking tour operators that have no communication, or communication that just ridiculous amounts of time. One particular operator, it's taken us, I don't know, 4 weeks to get hold of them. And then when it's all by email, and then when you send a response, it's another 2 or 3 days to come back for the response. It is not satisfactory. It is not satisfactory. And again, these are ones that are primarily, they've got big sales teams, but they're primarily direct, and it's biting them on the backside.
Yeah, it sounds like, Jackie, you've had a similar experience with this as well. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very difficult because obviously all the field sales staff who are your contacts, they've been, in majority of cases, been furloughed, or they're exchanging 3 weeks furlough and then they're back on for 3 weeks. So you just get the rapport going, and that person's gone off now. And there are some well-known culprits where you're still waiting for refunds, for departures, particularly in ski market, for departures that were departing in March and April for Easter. We still haven't got refunds on those. Chargebacks are an issue. So, these tour operators are causing us problems, because they are not facing up to their responsibilities. It's a tough market out there. We're having to walk away from our commission and all those sales we've done. And, they too have to as well. They have to refund the same as we are. So, it's a tough market.
And Claire, same for you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one positive that I would probably add into that is that I've had, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 BDMs in touch just this week saying we're back, which is brilliant. And actually we've now got a little route in, but it's unacceptable. We couldn't have run our businesses like that and expected our customers to come back. Surely it's the same.
This is something I'd like to ask you all. I mean, nothing too sort of in depth here, but I mean, how do you feel the actual wider travel sector when we start bringing in operators, we bring in airlines, we bring in hotel companies and operators as well? Broadly speaking, how would you say travel as a complete entity has handled this crisis so far? I mean, is it a case of it's done the best it can in the situation when it was having to work very quickly, or do you think there could have been perhaps a little more considered thought at times that would have got us through to a slightly better situation now? Perhaps we can start with you, Richard.
I think it's done fairly well. It is unprecedented. You know, I've 35 years in the job, and we've seen nothing like this on this scale. We've seen things similar to it, you know, Ash Cloud and things like that. But I think a lot of reputations, some of the reputations have been spoilt, and I think some reputations have been enhanced. And I think travel agents will and customers will vote with their feet. We've certainly, you know, we've had some operators where we've recommended them because of their quality product, and they refunds, etc. They have been shocking. But it's quite interesting to note these are companies who are probably owned, you know, like Shearings, who the wider company is a fund or something like that. So they've no travel experience, and that's they've had the money out of the company, and now can't give it back.
Certainly. And have you had a similar experience with that, Jackie? In terms of, do you feel everyone has pulled together at all, or has there kind of been some factions, let's say?
I think as an industry, we've handled it pretty well, because as I say, it was unprecedented. I think the government was completely wrong in terms of its refund policy. Yeah, this 7-day and 14-day. If they'd have stepped up and said, right, we've never ever been here before, we're going to give you 14 weeks. 14 weeks instead of 14 days. That point, we could have probably delivered, yeah? Because then it would have bought the tour operators time to process. And I think we sort of shot ourselves in the foot. Well, sorry, the government shot us in the foot by not making that stand and saying, you know. And then the credit cards came in with their and they were obviously on the side of the card holders. And you know, we got the chargebacks coming in. It all got very nasty. And I think in the early days, how the government stepped in and said, "Okay, travel industry, you understand. Yeah, your airlines. Yeah, the money's already gone to the airline. It's gone to the hotels. You're going to have to wait for it coming back." 14 weeks to get your act together. And that's where we are today, really. It's 14 weeks, really. And 90% of the refunds are done now. And if the government had given us that time as an industry, I think we would have a better reputation today.
Do you feel the same, Claire, in terms of that failure to kind of address this head on straight away and say, there is an issue here, we're not going to be able to get around this using the normal ways? I mean, do you feel that's going to be one of the hardest things to actually start then picking up that consumer confidence again from when you start having more people coming back and saying, well, I had this issue, refund I didn't get for weeks, etc., that sort of thing? Is that going to be a challenge?
Yeah, I think so. But actually, I think that it's not an issue that it's an issue we can definitely overcome. I think that there's been such extremes, though. I mean, that, as you say, with lack of any government support, it was a battle we were never going to win. But equally, there have been some operators that have maybe that could definitely and should have done better and continue to let us and consumers down. And it's really difficult then to actually, you know, of course we champion our customers, but it's very difficult if we no longer can make excuses. It's very difficult to actually be a cohesive team, isn't it? So I think there have been some absolutes, some brilliant wins. You know, some tour operators have completely gone over and above, and for us really, and I think probably for everybody, that's been about communication, consistent communication. As we say, being able to reach people, having questions answered, or even just having a generic update. It's just something really that's actually that we can use and we can share with our customers.
Looking to kind of where we are at this moment in time, we've had obviously certain destinations are starting to re-emerge, and obviously some are also starting to go the other direction as well, and we've got this kind of moving picture at the moment. How do you feel in terms of the different sectors within travel and how they're going to be moving forwards? I mean, we're going to take a look actually at a bit of kind of the group touring aspect at some stage, and how we start kind of bringing those kind of things back. But how do you feel about the different sectors? So taking cruise, taking operators, taking touring, and the rest. I mean, what's been the kind of issues you faced kind of working with those sectors at the moment? Let's start with you, Richard.
So cruise at the minute, cruise for us has been throughout. We've probably had about 30% cancellations who didn't rebook, but the rest have rebooked. We've also getting well, I wouldn't say a number, but we're certainly. I've taken a cruise inquiry today, and the customers have got very little question about what's going to happen. I think the operators are going to come out with some things. I believe Princess are going to do some information next week about that, how they're going to operate. But you know, previously, cruise industry has been very careful to make sure that the ships are spotlessly clean. They need to be clean because of norovirus and those sorts of things. And so they are well adept at keeping that sort of standard going. They've got to make some improvements. I suspect they'll increase the time they're in port at some stage to offer a cleaning. But generally, no, I think cruise will be okay. I think touring, yes, I think that market will come back quite quickly. I think I don't know. I think all markets will come back eventually, but it's just how people operate it, and what clients. Or really, what we need is a question and answers. What are your fears about booking? And tour operator, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, Jackie, any thoughts on that? I mean, would you like a big old travel question and answer at some stage, so we can kind of have this out and kind of work out what needs to kind of progress?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased to hear about the cruise market, because I say we are not really seeing that particularly at the moment. We've got a lot of future cruise credits out there, but not seeing anybody actually booking it. What has been quite buoyant is the ski market. They were all, I would say, probably 90% of my ski for March and April have rebooked for 21. Just carry the booking forward, which is great news. But I do quite a lot of ski groups. And again, skiing, I mean, is you know, you wear masks, you wear gloves, you're in the outdoors, yeah. So it's a totally socially acceptable holiday, isn't it? I'm not sure about the chalet market, you know, but yeah. So skiing is fine. The group tours, I think, are going to be taking a little bit harder work to do. You know, not too sure on that market yet. Majority of stuff that we're seeing is your standard, really, fly and flop. Yeah, fly and flop for Christmas, for Tenerife, for Dubai coming in, half term as well, but not really seeing any of our off the beaten track stuff yet.
And Claire, what about you in terms of the sectors that you're finding, kind of how are they progressing at different rates? Are you finding any ones that are moving at a quicker rate than others? What's been the situation for you there?
Really, again, very similar to Richard and Jackie. It is really fly and flop. I think as a consumer, you would potentially feel a bit more in control of your own destiny. So I think we can all get that, can't we? And then as far as the other sectors, I mean, it's clear that cruise has got its challenge, but we all know once they nail it, they can quickly roll that out across all vessels, and once that happens, I think that will be back almost in the blink of an eye, which will be a brilliant thing. But I guess it's the same thing that applies to everything. Cruise touring, it's going to be about capacity, isn't it? And you could take that through to hotels as well. You know, reduced capacity has to probably mean reduced facilities, reduced timings, reduced whatever it may be. And then it's kind of dealing with consumer expectations around that and making sure that we're able to deliver a consistent message, which is the thing that's held us been the issue since the beginning, really.
Yeah, and I think also it's interesting to apply those ideas to such wildly different sectors in a way, and that you have the cruise sector where you have ships with potentially thousands of people on board versus small gatherings of 5, 6, 10, 12 people going on a tour together or something like that. But at the end of the day, there's kind of that need for there to be clear protocols, clear guidance on how these things can resume. Are you seeing any green shoots with that, Richard, in terms of, do you feel there is starting to become some consensus that we can actually start working on for all these different sectors, or do you think it is going to be quite fragmented?
I think it is a bit fragmented to start with. I think as people, as I say, as people come back, that will generate a little bit more confidence in the general market. I think there's certainly interest for some tours for 21, but later September, you know, so the New England sort of stuff and that thing. But I think people will be. I think tour operators and operators need to come out with how are you going to operate it, guys? What you're going to do? How can we sell your tours and make it easy for us to sell your tours with pictures, you know, detailed information about what you're going to do. Are you going to have a row of seats missing on a coach tour, for instance? You know, have a row, skip a row, that sort of thing. And that sort of information is very slow in coming forward. So the tour operators are starting to come back. Yes, there are a lot of, you know, there's been a lot of redundancy with sales staff and teams. But I think that's what the next step should be for the tour operators. Okay, we're operating this particular tour. We're going to take out 30% of the seats on it, and that's how we're going to go forward. Okay.
And just turn to you, Jackie. In terms of how we start then moving ahead with the next 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 months, and we have some trips starting to go again, and we look further down the line at the kind of holidays that are being sold and how those are being promoted, essentially. I mean, do you think we'll have to have a slight change in the way, in the kind of holidays we sell in future? Is there going to have to be this element of greater responsibility coming forward in all ways in which we operate when it comes not just to how it is in destination, but also about how responsibly you act with clients and things like that too?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the whole experience at the airport and the lounges and the car parking, I think everybody has to take their responsibility. I mean, obviously currently the villa market is quite buoyant because people feel safer there, particularly if they don't want to go out to restaurants. I've seen neighbours of mine who've come over and they've not been out at all. They've just stayed in their villa, you know, because that's what they feel is safe. So I think, yeah, we all are going to have to take responsibility. In whatever sector it is the new way of operating, isn't it? Whether that be in our offices or our shops, from the very start of the whole booking process, whether it be by appointment, whether it be by Zoom, whether it be email, whatever it is, we have to be flexible in this new environment that we're going to be in.
Certainly. And just turn to you, Claire. I'd actually like to ask all three of you this, but I'll start with you, Claire. Is that obviously you when it goes back to that typical day-to-day work in the office, when we can do that again, when perhaps social distancing isn't a thing anymore, there's going to be a lot of things that we have to do before we get to that point, but it will be incremental. I mean, the big issue that's going to be coming around today is the mandatory mask wearing in retail premises as well. So I'd just love to have a thought from all of you, if possible, just on how you feel that's going to change people's mindsets over the coming months, and how you may well have to adapt to that, even with, I guess, appointment-based services as well.
Yeah,
sorry, well, it's Claire, yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I guess we've all got to adapt. We've all got to do what's the right thing to help us come through it, haven't we? And one thing that I do think will help, we're so late to the mask kind of, as Jackie alluded to before, every other country has been doing this for a while. So for us to step out of the UK to enter a country that actually it's a much heavier requirement is a bit alien. So actually for that to become part of our norm day to day, that will, I hope, take a barrier away. So I think, you know, that is not necessarily something that we all embrace or feel comfortable with, but if it's part of our new normal, we've got to suck it up and get on with it, really, haven't we?
Yeah.
And as we do with our bigger conversations pre-booking around Foreign Office advice, about safety precautions, about, you know, X, Y, and Z. ATO have done some research, and we've been sending that out. We're due to send our second batch this week. Sorry, yeah, tomorrow. And that will have it's brilliant consumer feedback about when people might feel ready to book, to consider it, to book it, and to travel. So that's helped us quite a lot. But it's not just necessarily our responsibility as far as contracts, T's and C's and all of that stuff, I think that we'll all remember those beautiful pictures while we were in full lockdown at home. You know, the world came back to life, pods of dolphins and turtles and whatever else it may be. That is where I think a company like Intrepid, a company that's got a really great ethic as far as socially responsible tourism, that's potentially where those guys win. So going forward for all of us, I'm sure it's like a risk versus reward consideration no matter what we do. So maybe that's responsible tourism. Not quite yet, but it will have its day, I feel confident.
Okay. And Jackie, just picking up on a couple of things that Claire mentioned then, there are actually things that you mentioned earlier as well, but you talked about how in Portugal, where you are currently, that there is this, there's a very much an understanding of the need for some of these more stringent regulations to keep people safe. And also, I believe TravelTime World were one of the first agencies really to start offering appointment-based services. I know you did that very early on, and outdoor appointments as well. Can you just talk me through some of those bits you've done?
Okay, well, we were quite fortunate because we'd actually just taken the decision 6 months ago to relocate from a retail premises, which we've been for 25 years, across the road to a ground floor office, which had a door on the front door. So it was a sort of halfway measure because we were an office with the door, but so our environment changed. So we never actually closed down. Okay, because every day I went to the office, people knew by the fact that those days were sort of quite dark days. The lights were on, therefore we were there, and people used to knock on the window and wave, and you know, all through that sort of lockdown period, they knew we were there. So we automatically set up an appointment system, and because there was a lot of hanging on phone calls at the time. I used to sit and crochet, you see, and I started crocheting these little mats for people, and it was sort of standard for practice. You made an appointment, you came in, I gave you this little crocheted mats, which used to take me about 15 minutes to crochet one up, and used to do them in different colours. So it became a sort of standard joke, as Jackie's making a crochet and a mat where she's hanging on the phone for a refund, and the clients are coming in. And we obviously have patio doors that opened up as well, so clients, as we got to the spring, could sit at the door there with the fresh air flowing through, and we got a patio at the front, so we could do outdoor appointments at the front. So we started, you know, using what we had to become socially acceptable. I mean, now on a Saturdays, my colleague, she has the flags outside, and she has a desk, you know, puts a stall outside the front of the shop and meets people on the high street walking past our little patio. So we were just adapting really to what is socially acceptable, really.
And finally, just quickly from you, Richard, as well, have you had to make similar sort of steps like that? Are you doing appointments, I presume, at the moment as well?
We are doing appointments, but we also are seeing customers come in off the street. We've got some, you know, for ourselves, we've got some really good screens that are almost desk size, so there's no division apart from the plastic between us and the customer. We have certainly seen that we you know, the actual footfall has dropped a bit, but we are seeing people wanting to come in rather than talk to us over the phone. But we were very clear in our social media messages of the actions and what they look like, and this is what's going to happen. I mean, previously, before this happened, we had hand sanitizer and wipes available always, because you know, you're shaking somebody's hand or saying hello to somebody or giving them something, you don't know what to touch previously. So the customers is for the customers' benefit and for ours. So you know, we've already encouraged that from day one to do that. But yeah, people are certainly wanting to come in rather than talk over the phone.
Bringing this back to the reason we've gathered today to have a chat is we're here on what is hopefully the first of many National Travel Agent Days in the UK. I just wanted to ask all of you individually whether you consider a day like this or some kind of formal recognition like this to be something that you would value and something that you hope does pick up and continue, and also at the same time does to have a positive impact on consumers and their views of the travel trade. What do you think about that, Claire?
Yeah, I think anything that gives us a voice and an opportunity to talk about the positive side of travel has got to be a good thing. I think we do need to be careful how we use it. There are some operators already that have been in touch this week, suggesting that any bookings made today, then we'll get a bottle of wine or something like that, which, you know, it is the industry that's driven by alcohol, I get that. But really, is that what it's about? Probably not. It should be about sharing our collective successes, as we, you know, we all do a great job that we can be proud of. So yeah, of course it's great to have some recognition, but I would see something like this as more of a platform for something else.
Okay. And Jackie, how do you feel about it? Is it something
Yeah.
you've ever thought of before, or noticed in other countries and never thought about bringing to the UK or seeing here?
No, I've not really noticed it before, but I think it really is raising the profile and the value, and therefore if you can raise the profile of a travel agent and then people can see the value in using one, and also we can use it to some degree for lobbying some of the the things that are out there that we agree or don't agree with.
And Richard, finally with you, is it something that you think you'll be able to take some benefit from?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's coming around now. It's important to shout about a travel agent. If you swapped industry, my parents were into food retail when we were kids, so they had smaller shops. The supermarkets came along, cut the prices like the internet did with us a little bit to start with. But people are now, food shop wise, are going back to small retailers and not worrying too much about the cost. We've got an artisan bakery up the road who charges £4 for a loaf. So he has a queue all day for that. So I think people, once they see benefits of something and the quality of the service and the options and the choice, they move away. I go to the butchers. Rachel at the butchers, because she gives me good service. The meat's good. I know where it's come from, and I know that her father's taught her that experience counts for a lot. And I think we've seen that over the last, since we were allowed to reopen the doors, we've certainly seen new customers. Where did you book before? Well, you used to book on the internet, and I think now they're going. It's not so that it's a bit dangerous. And I can leave it with this guy down the road. He looks good. He's got a lot of reviews, and people seem to know him and interact with him, and therefore he must be a decent guy.
Well, do you know what, Richard? I think that's probably an extremely positive note on which for us to end today, to go down the road to the bloke who'll sell you a holiday that won't cost you more than an inflated bit of artisan bread. So that's all good. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Jackie, and thanks, Richard. Unless you've got anything else to add, Jackie, have you got something to add? Did you say?
No. Just a sort of observation that one of my staff was saying to me today was that notice that the high street is definitely opening later. Yeah. That we're seeing where before, I used to arrive sort of park up at 8:30, 9:15, and people were buzzing, whatever. She was saying to me today, she said, there's nothing really happening before 10 o'clock here on the high street. I don't know whether you're experiencing that the day is definitely shorter. People are, it's 10 o'clock before people are around and getting their coffees and whatever. Whereas, and maybe that's because people are not commuting now into central London as much. Yeah. So, it's definitely quiet. That's one of my observations.
Is it quieter where you are, Claire, as well?
Yeah, definitely a later start, but we were just talking in our office actually how busy our town seems. I had a much needed day off yesterday. I nearly killed myself actually having a bike ride into town with the children into our town park. And but then coming into town, because of course I come in here every day, but literally arrive into the office, do what we need to do, and then leave the office. But actually to see such a well-supported town, it was actually, to start with, it made me a little bit nervous because we're just not used to anything like that now, are we? But has got to show that all our consumers and all of us as consumers are we're ready to change into what we don't know, but change is coming.
Certainly. And finally, Richard, you've talked about it a bit there, that the expertise that you've dealt with in the past and you've seen around the town. I mean, do you feel that's just going to be one of the beacons that hopefully that takes the industry forward?
Yeah, I think so. As long as you keep giving out clear messages and informative posts rather than just offer after offer, you know, people go, well, these guys know their stuff. They know what they're talking about. You know, experience is everything. You know, we've had a customer in today who's been elsewhere to another agent, a multiple, you know, they've come to us because they just haven't got the experience. So I think the experience is positive, but it's just keeping the messages rolling and moving more away from offers to more of an information platform in the stuff that you present.
Okay.
One thing I've found is that whilst I'm currently North West Hampshire chair, and so you know, I'm asked my opinion now and again from I've done a couple of radio shows where there've been hour-long phone-ins and people have phoned up, and I think they do. Well, I booked it on the internet. I'm not sure what to do, and I don't know what to do, and help me, and what can I do, and that sort of thing. And you know, and the first answer is, well, the best thing to do next time is book through a travel agent, because your agent will have ironed out all that information.
Thank you very much, everyone. Look, we're going to end it there. I really appreciate your time today, and look, happy National Travel Agent Day to everyone. That's what we're here for as well, and hopefully everyone gets a lot out of this, and we can continue to see it to be something that raises the flag for travel agents. So thank you very much, everyone, and I hope you all have a very good day.
Yes. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.